Hey guys, this is JAde with Jamming, and today we're going to be talking about Eurorack. If you're thinking of building a modular synthesizer, you're probably all confused, you don't know where to start, you don't know if you even should. So in this video, I really want to go over some questions that I get asked a lot. Why did I go modular? What are the differences between a modular synthesizer and a regular synthesizer? And if it's something that's for you and you want to invest your time and money in. So the reason I went modular was because I had a bunch of synthesizers and I got to the point where I wanted to sequence them all from one brain. And I just wanted to have a bunch of little monosynths controlled by one main machine. And somebody told me, that sounds a lot like modular. After buying and selling a lot of synthesizers, overlapping in sounds, I did realize that I wanted something different. And the cool thing about modular synthesis is that you build your own synthesizer. You can customize every single piece of your modular synthesizer. If you don't like a way a certain filter sounds, you change it out for another filter. You don't even have to build your system around a synthesizer. You could have a Eurorack full of effects or full of sequencers. The possibilities are really endless when it comes to customization of your modular synthesizer. I knew right off the bat that I didn't want regular sounds that I could achieve with my other synthesizers. For example, like triangle and saw waves, regular oscillators. I knew I didn't want my system to be that. What I really focused on was achieving those Asian type sounds that I love. You guys know I love plucks, all those types of resonators, those sounds that I can't create with other synthesizers. That's what I wanted my Eurorack to do. So I made sure from the beginning not to build the synth from scratch where I would need an oscillator, an ADSR, an envelope. I really didn't want to go through all of that because that's where Eurorack can get expensive when you try to build a synth from scratch. Now let's talk about the price of Eurorack. You always hear people say, Eurorack is crazy expensive, don't get into Eurorack, the rabbit hole, you're gonna go bankrupt. But if you really tear it down module by module, your Eurorack is pretty much more than one instrument. If you look at the system as a whole, yes, it can go up to $4,000, $5,000. But if you look at it by individual pieces, for example, a sequencer, a hardware sequencer can be just as much or even more. The Pyramid, it's like $700. The Digitac, $700. So when you add these things up, you're really around the same ballpark depending on how much you spend. Another thing is you don't have to fill your Eurorack case right away. And that's one of the main problems that people have. They think they get their case and they see empty spots and they automatically want to fill them in. They end up filling a case, spending thousands of dollars that they don't have, probably putting it on credit, and then realizing they don't even know what they're doing and they bail out of Eurorack, they lose a lot of money, and it's just not the way to do things if you want to get into Eurorack. I've been getting into Eurorack for the past year and a half, maybe 2 years. I filled, emptied my case numerous times. I just got another case. But what does this mean? I mean, I'm not really spending that much money on other types of synthesizers. So I'm really just investing in my Eurorack system, which is my little orchestra, that's how I call it. In this system alone, I have 4 voices, I have effects, I have a sequencer. So if you add those things up, I mean, the amount of space that a Eurorack takes, it would be just as much as having a bunch of synthesizers. And look at how much space that is. I mean, it's so small. I love the portability of it. I love recording with it. I love discovering new things with it. Okay, so obviously I still love to play keys, and if I want to build an 8-voice analog synthesizer in a Eurorack, that's going to be super expensive and super complicated. I don't want to do that. I want my Eurorack to be different than everything that I have. So I leave my digital synthesizers to take care of polyphony, I leave my monophonic synthesizers to take care of those raw, fat sounds, and I leave my modular for that unique experience that I get with each module. For example, I have 4 different types of sequencers in my Eurorack. I have this big one right at the bottom, I have one that's for drums, I have the Hermit, and then I have my favorite one, which is the Varigate 4 Plus with the voltage block combo. And they all provide different experiences for me. They all help me create music in a different way that I normally wouldn't on a regular hardware synthesizer. And that's the beauty of modular for me, that it takes me out of the 4/4 grid. It takes me away from composing with a keyboard. There's absolutely nothing wrong with composing with a keyboard, but I know I can explore different methods of composition, of non-linear composition, and achieve more interesting results through my music. When I first got into Eurorack, I knew absolutely nothing about Eurorack, and it looks really complicated, but it really is not. It's really divided into 2 parts, audio and CV. It's actually very simple. You have modules that are dedicated to noise sources. So just like a regular synthesizer, you would take audio out of that module into your mixer. And before you do that, you can also run it through some effects. So you would go audio out of the module into the effect, out of the effect into your mixer. It's pretty much a chain. You're doing the connections outside of the synthesizer. And with this, you have so much control over what you can do, what you can create, the way you create music. It's really a beautiful experience, and I'm really glad that I took the plunge on it. If you're afraid of getting into modular synthesis because you think it's a rabbit hole and that's what you've heard, don't think like that. Ultimately, it's up to how much self-control you have. I mean, if you're a compulsive person, you're gonna fill that case in a week, I guarantee it. But put limits on yourself. Don't spend more than you can afford, and don't use credit cards. That's just my #1 tip. If you can't afford it, don't get it. There's nothing better than buying something and knowing like, this is mine, I can trade it, I can sell it, I can do whatever I want with it. When you put something on credit, you don't even own it, and you get tired of it before you're even done paying for it. And it's just a crappy system to be. It's stressful. Don't use credit cards. So we talked about audio, so now let's talk about CV. On a regular synthesizer, we're used to seeing MIDI. That's how we transmit our note data. CV is pretty similar to MIDI, but you get so much more control over every single parameter of your synthesizer. So how would we get pitch the way we do out of MIDI, out of a regular synthesizer? You would do CV into the volt per octave, which is going to control the pitch of your synthesizer. Then you need to send a gate, because when you press on a keyboard, you're sending the gate manually with your finger. You don't have that. So now you need to send the gate with a cable. Everything is with a cable. Everything is patching, like I said. Everything is making the connections yourself. And once you figure that out, you really can't go wrong. You're just gonna patch and explore, discover new sounds, discover new ways of patching, and it's really a beautiful experience. So if you're thinking about it, if you have the funds for it, definitely go for it. Don't be afraid of it. You also see a lot of people selling their regular synthesizers saying, oh, the modular is hungry, you know, it needs to be fed. That's because they see these redundancies that these other synthesizers have. They see the power of a modular synthesizer and what it can do and how it overlaps with their other gear, and they're thinking, there's a module that costs as much as this synth and it can do so much more for me in my setup right now. So don't be afraid to sell things you're not using to build your modular. There's no need to hoard. You get way more done with less gear than you do with a room full of synthesizers, and that's just facts. So if you're looking for a different experience of composing that doesn't revolve around a keyboard, that doesn't revolve around a grid, around the 4/4, definitely look into Eurorack, because there's so many beautiful sequencers that can change your workflow in ways you would have never imagined. And if you don't like them, you just take it out, put another module in. There's Facebook groups dedicated to just trading and selling modules. So it really makes you feel like part of a community. There's forums, there's Muff Wiggler, there's a lot of resources that you can use to learn modular synthesis if you're trying to get into it. That's pretty much all the advice I have for you guys today. If you guys like what I'm doing and want to see me make more videos, please consider becoming my patron. Patreon is a microfunding website where you can send a few bucks or even just $1 a month to show me that you guys enjoy my content, that you find value in what I do. You get my music, sample packs, there's rewards for different tires, so definitely check that out if you would like to support what I do. Alright guys, that's it for today. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe. Catch you later.